My girlfriend texted, "I gave your Paddock Club pass to my ex. You hate the engine noise anyway, and I really wanted him to see the Vegas race for his birthday." I replied, "Sweet of you." Then, I voided her credential, canceled the $5,000 suite at the Bellagio, switched my relationship status to single, and blocked her before she could even type a reply. When the first notification hit her phone, she was probably still smiling at her ex. I, 32 male, had spent nearly a year planning the perfect anniversary weekend for Elena. Platinum VIP access to the Las Vegas Grand Prix, helicopter transfers, the absolute works. Then came the text. "I gave your pass to Julian. You hate the noise anyway." Julian, her ex. The guy who was just a childhood friend. The guy she swore I never had to worry about. I sat in my home office, staring at my phone, reading those words over and over and over. 4 times, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. She had just handed my $3,000 ticket to the man she told me was part of the family. The ticket I bought for our anniversary trip that I had organized down to the literal second. My hands didn't even shake as I typed back those 3 words. "Sweet of you." Then I opened my laptop. At 4:12 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, I systematically dismantled the life Elena thought was secure. First, the official Formula One portal. I logged in, navigated to the guest management tab, and hit revoke on her Paddock Club credential. $2,950, credited back to my Amex instantly. Mine stayed active. I wasn't missing this race for anything. Next, the Bellagio app. I canceled the Fountain View suite. I lost a $500 deposit, sure, but the thought of Elena lounging in that king-sized bed with Julian while I paid for the room service? Not happening. Then came the part that I knew would leave a mark. Facebook, Instagram, relationship status, single, public. I didn't hesitate. I hit confirm on both, watching the little spinning wheels of the internet finalize my freedom. Finally, the Great Wall of Silence. I blocked her number. I blocked her on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. I even went into Venmo and blocked her there, just so she couldn't send me a request with a manipulative message attached. The entire process took exactly 14 minutes. Elena was probably still sitting on the couch, maybe even in the next room, imagining how noble she was for giving Julian such a thoughtful gift. She didn't realize that in those 14 minutes, the trip she was bragging about was erased, and the man she took for granted was officially, and very publicly, gone. I met Elena 3 years ago at a charity gala in downtown Chicago. She was an interior designer, stylish, sharp-witted, and possessed a laugh that could fill a room. I was a project manager for a high-end architectural firm, stable, well-off, and, if I'm being honest, a bit of a fixer. I like taking care of people. We moved in together after a year. My sister, Sarah, told me I was moving too fast. She said Elena had a vibe that felt transactional. I told Sarah she was just being protective. I thought Elena was the one. The Vegas trip was supposed to be our big moment. Our 3-year anniversary fell right on the weekend of the Grand Prix. Elena always talked about how much she wanted to see the city under the lights, how she wanted to experience the glitz and glamour of a world-class event. I spared no expense. I spent months on wait lists. I pulled favors with clients to get those Paddock Club passes. These weren't just tickets. They were access to the pit lane, gourmet catering, and the best view of the start-finish line in the entire city. Elena acted like she'd won the lottery when I told her. She hugged me, called me her hero, and immediately posted a photo of the confirmation email to her story. "My man knows how to treat his queen," she wrote, followed by a crown emoji. Julian was the first person to like it. Julian, the best friend. He was always there, lurking in the comments, showing up to help with things she never asked me to help with. She told me they had dated in college for like 5 minutes, and that there was 0 chemistry left. "Alex, you're being insecure," she'd say whenever I brought up the fact that he called her at 11 p.m. to vent about his dating life. "He's like a brother to me. You're the one I'm with. You're the one I love." I believed her, because I wanted to. But the red flags were waving like a checkered flag at the finish line. There was the time I came home early and found them on the balcony, sharing a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. Julian was, and then there was the birthday gift she bought him last month. A high-end watch. He's going through a hard time, Alex. He needed a win. Besides, you make so much more than I do. I wanted to use my fun money on something meaningful. Her fun money was only possible because I paid the rent, the utilities, the groceries, and her car insurance. My stable income was the floor she walked on so she could reach for the stars. And Julian. But the text on Tuesday was the final straw. It wasn't just about the money. It was the casualness of it. The way she decided, on my behalf, that I didn't want to go to an event I'd been talking about for 6 months. You hate the engine noise anyway. No, Elena. I love the noise. I love the precision. I love the speed. What I hate is being the ATM for your friendship with your ex-boyfriend. I stood up from my desk and walked to the kitchen. I could hear her in the bedroom talking on the phone. Her voice was high, excited. I know, right? It's going to be insane. The Paddock Club has an open bar, Julian. We can literally stand right above the pit crew. Alex won't mind. He's such a homebody anyway. He'll probably just be happy to have the house to himself so he can play his video games. I didn't say a word. I grabbed my car keys and walked out the front door. I called my best friend Marcus as I pulled out of the driveway. Hey man, I said, my voice eerily calm. What are you doing the weekend of the 16th? Working, probably. Why? Pack a bag. We're going to Vegas. I've got a Paddock Club pass with your name on it. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Wait, what about Elena? Elena is currently a single woman who is about to realize she has no hotel room, no race ticket, and no ride to the airport. Marcus let out a low whistle. Damn, Alex, what happened? She gave my ticket to Julian, told me I hate the noise. Oh, she did not. She did, but don't worry, the noise is about to get a lot louder for her. I drove to a local sports bar, ordered a burger, and turned my phone face down on the table. I knew the storm was coming. I knew that within the hour, she would try to log into the Bellagio app to check the check-in time. She would try to pull up the ticket QR codes to show Julian, and then she would see the Facebook notification. I felt a strange sense of peace. For 2 years, I had been the provider. I had been the steady hand, the one who handled the logistics, while she gave all her emotional energy to a man who didn't have a pot to piss in. I was the safe choice, the boring choice. Well, boring just got very, very expensive for her. Around 6:30, my phone started vibrating against the wood of the table. It didn't stop. It was a relentless, buzzing rhythm. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I didn't even look at it. I knew it was her. Or maybe it was her mother, who always defended her. Or her friend Chloe, who was just as manipulative as she was. I finished my burger, paid the bill, and walked out into the cool evening air. The sun was setting, casting long orange shadows across the parking lot. I pulled up my banking app. I had already moved the trip fund back into my main savings. The $12,000 I'd set aside for the weekend, for the fine dining, the shopping, the luxury transfers, was back where it belonged. I looked at the relationship status post on my feed. It already had 30 likes. My sister Sarah had commented, "Finally, proud of you, bro." My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Alex, it's Elena. Why is your phone off? Why did you block me? There's a glitch with the Bellagio app. It says the reservation is canceled, and Julian says the ticket link you sent him is broken. Call me now. This isn't funny." I smiled. I didn't reply. I just blocked the new number too. Then I drove to Sarah's house. I needed a place to stay for a few nights while Elena figured out how to move her designer furniture out of my apartment. The noise was just beginning, and for the first time in 3 years, I was the one in the driver's seat. I was sitting on my sister's back porch, watching the fireflies dance over the lawn, when the first wave of flying monkeys arrived. In the world of toxic breakups, flying monkeys are the friends the narcissist sends to do their dirty work. First, it was Chloe. She sent a message through LinkedIn, since I'd already blocked her everywhere else. "Alex, seriously? You're gonna be that guy? Elena is literally hyperventilating in the hallway. You can't just kick her out and cancel a trip because of a misunderstanding over a ticket. It's her birthday weekend, for God's sake. Have some class." I didn't reply. I just screenshotted the message, sent it to my lawyer, just in case, and then blocked Chloe on LinkedIn too. Sarah walked out with 2 glasses of iced tea. She sat down, kicked her feet up on the railing, and looked at me. "So," she said, a small smile playing on her lips, "how does freedom taste? A little bit like expensive engine oil and desert air." I laughed. "It tastes like not paying for Julian's dinner for the first time in 3 years. She's going to come here, you know," Sarah warned. "She knows I live 5 minutes away. She's going to play the victim card until the deck is empty." "Let her," I said. "The locks on the apartment were changed 2 hours ago. The landlord is a buddy of mine, and since Elena's name was never on the lease, and she's never paid a dime toward the rent, she's officially a guest who's overstayed her welcome." Around 9 p.m., my doorbell didn't ring, but Sarah's phone did. It was Elena. She was calling from a number I didn't recognize. Sarah put it on speaker. "Sarah, is Alex there? Please tell him to talk to me." Elena's voice was shaky, that practiced, "I'm about to cry" tone she used whenever she needed a favor. "I'm standing outside our apartment and my key doesn't work. All my stuff it's just gone. What is happening?" Sarah looked at me. I nodded. "It's not your apartment, Elena," Sarah said, her voice like ice. "It's Alex's, and your stuff isn't gone. It's in 3 heavy-duty storage bins at the U-Haul facility on 4th Street. Alex already paid for the first month. The key is under the mat at your mother's house. Consider this your official move-out notice." There was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then the mask slipped. "You can't do this!" Elena screamed. The sad girl routine was gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated rage. "I have a flight tomorrow. I have a weekend planned. I gave Julian that ticket because he deserved it after the year he's had. Alex is just being a petty, controlling jerk because he can't handle the fact that I have male friends." "He handled it for 3 years, Elena," Sarah replied. "He handled the dinners, the car payments, the excuses, but he's not handling the bill for your date with your ex. Enjoy Vegas, if you can figure out how to pay for a hotel on your designer salary." Sarah hung up. I felt a weight lift off my chest that I didn't even know I was carrying. It was the weight of 1,000 small lies. 1,000 times I had swallowed my pride to keep the peace. The next morning, Wednesday, the social media war went nuclear. Elena posted a black and white photo of herself looking out a window. The caption was a masterpiece of gaslighting. "Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who want to see you fail. Being blindsided and kicked out of my home the day before my birthday trip, all over a misunderstanding about a friend. It's a sad day when money and tickets matter more than 3 years of love. Be careful who you give your heart to, ladies. Hashtag moving on. Hashtag truth will out." The comments were a dumpster fire. "What? Alex did that?" I sat at Sarah's kitchen table, scrolling through the comments while I drank my coffee. Marcus called me, sounding like he'd been up all night. "Yo, have you seen her post? People are dragging you, man. Even some of our mutual friends are asking me what's going on." "Let them talk," I said. "I'm not playing the he said, she said game on Instagram." "You don't have to," Marcus said. "I just sent you a link. Look at what Julian just posted." I clicked the link. Julian, when the Uber driver turned off the GPS and said, "He was wearing "Your mother has been waiting for this day for a long time. Jacket. I just finished my shift at the hospital my credit card and called a ride home, like I do every single night." His caption, Vegas, the driver, baby, an older Paddock guy named Greg, was someone I'd seen a dozen times before. A guy could ask for. He was always friendly, always asked about my day. See you at the finish line. But tonight, something was off. 10 minutes into the ride, Greg took a hard left into an industrial district I'd never seen. When I told him he missed the turn, he didn't even look at me. He just reached over and clicked the child locks. I gave your Paddock Club. My heart dropped into my stomach. "Greg, you hate the engine noise anyway?" I asked, and I really wanted him to see the Vegas race. He looked at me in the rearview mirror. I posted that with this cold, empty smile. "No caption, don't worry, Maya," no music, he said. "Just the cold, "We're just taking the scenic route to the airport. Then your mother is already there. She's been waiting for 5 years to get you back." I felt from the last 6 months. My mother was I blurred out the sensitive info. The courts had issued a lifetime restraining order after she tried to take me and my brother across the border when I was 12. I reached for my phone, the silence that followed the signal on social media. Greg laughed, deafening. A dry, one by one sound. The signal jammer comments on Elena's "Don't bother." Then I saw it. A black SUV following us. They saw the text, and in the passenger seat, they saw the friendship. She was staring right at me. waving a single yellow rose to date her ex, the same one she used to leave on my pillow. I didn't calling Sarah. I just acted. As we slowed for a construction zone, I grabbed the heavy fire extinguisher from under the seat. I'll pay him back, smashed the side window with everything I had. I dove out of the moving car, Julian already tumbling onto the gravel as I screamed for the workers to help me. The SUV sped off, a night, leaving Greg to face the police. We're going to be stranded. My mother is still out there. I took the phone from Sarah. And now, I never take the same way home twice. I said, "You're just experiencing the reality of your own choices. You gave away my ticket, so I gave away your hotel room. Seems fair, right? Alex, please, it's my birthday. Happy birthday, Elena," I said. "I hope Julian is as good at paying for sweets as he is at venting about his life. Don't call this number again." I handed the phone back to Sarah. I felt incredible. But the Vegas story wasn't over. Thursday morning, Marcus and I arrived at the airport. We were flying first class, another perk I'd booked months ago. As we were sitting in the lounge, sipping mimosas, I saw them. Elena and Julian were at the gate across from us. They looked rough. Elena was wearing a tracksuit, her hair in a messy bun, clutching a designer bag that I had bought her for Christmas. Julian was carrying a cheap duffel bag, looking stressed, staring at his phone. They were flying a budget airline, the kind where you have to pay for your own water. They hadn't seen us yet. "Check it out," Marcus whispered, nodding toward them. "Looks like the VIP life is off to a rocky start." As if on cue, I watched Julian say something to Elena. She snapped back at him. He threw his hands up in the air and walked toward the bathroom. Elena sat down on her suitcase, put her head in her hands, and, for the first time, she actually looked like she was crying. Not the manipulative cry. The, "I just realized I screwed up my entire life" cry. I looked away. I didn't feel joy in her misery, but I didn't feel pity either. I felt nothing. When we landed in Vegas, the heat hit us like a physical wall, but the energy was electric. The Strip was transformed into a racetrack, neon lights everywhere, the sound of high-performance engines echoing through the canyons of glass and steel. We checked into the Bellagio. The manager, who remembered me from previous bookings, greeted me with a grin. "Mr. Vance, welcome back. I saw the cancellation on the suite, but I managed to keep you in a premium fountain view room on the top floor. And since it's just the two of you now, I've added a complimentary bottle of vintage champagne to the room." "Thanks, Carlos," I said. "I appreciate that." Marcus and I dropped our bags and went straight to the window. The fountains were dancing to a classic Sinatra track. Below us, the grandstands were filling up. "Alex," Marcus said, popping the cork on the champagne, "this is going to be the best weekend of our lives." "To the noise," I said, clinking my glass against his. "To the noise." But while Marcus and I were living the dream, Elena and Julian were living a nightmare. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from a Vegas Locals Facebook group I joined months ago to scout for restaurant recommendations. A post had just gone up. "Urgent. Does anyone know of a hostel or a cheap Airbnb near the Strip that isn't booked? My friend and I are at the airport, and every hotel is asking for a $3,000 deposit or is sold out. Please help." The poster? Elena. The first comment under her post was from a local guy. "LMAO, honey. It's Grand Prix weekend. You're lucky if you find a park bench for under $500. Why didn't you book ahead?" I turned off my phone. The race was starting in 12 hours. The Paddock Club was waiting. And for the first time in 3 years, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Friday night in Vegas, and the city was screaming. The smell of burnt rubber and high-octane fuel hung in the air like expensive perfume. Marcus and I were standing on the balcony of the Paddock Club, literally feet above the Ferrari pit box. The sound of the pneumatic wheel guns, that sharp, rhythmic zip, 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 was the only music I needed. "This," Marcus shouted over the roar of a car accelerating out of the pits, "is officially the greatest thing I have ever seen." I leaned against the railing, a cold drink in my hand, watching the mechanics move with the precision of neurosurgeons. I felt electric. For 3 years I've been living in the quiet. I'd been the guy who turned down the volume, the guy who smoothed over the edges so Elena wouldn't have a tantrum. I didn't hate the noise. I loved it. I just hadn't been allowed to hear it. Around 10 p.m., during the final practice session, I saw them. I wasn't even looking for them, but the Paddock Club entrance is a bottleneck of wealth and look-at-me energy. I happened to glance down toward the main security gate, the one where the VIPs have to scan their digital credentials to get into the inner sanctum. There was Elena, wearing a tight, red dress that probably cost more than her share of the rent she never paid. She was clinging to Julian's arm. Julian was wearing that new team jacket, looking around like he owned the place. They reached the scanner. Julian pulled up his phone. He looked smug, leaning in to say something to the security guard. Probably some "do you know who I am" nonsense. He tapped his phone against the electronic reader. Beep. A loud, harsh, red light flashed on the pillar. I watched from above, like a god on Olympus, as the smug look vanished from Julian's face. He tried again. Beep. The security guard, a massive guy with a headset and a "don't even try it" expression, stepped forward. He shook his head and pointed toward the guest relations tent, which was about half a mile away in the sweltering heat. Elena started gesturing wildly. I could see her mouth moving, likely telling the guard that there was a huge mistake, that her boyfriend was a VIP. The guard didn't budge. He crossed his arms, and then he did the one thing that I knew would kill Elena's soul. He pointed at the line of people waiting behind them and told them to move. They were shuffled out of the VIP line and into the general admission dirt, right next to a trash can. "Check it out," I nudged Marcus. He looked down, saw them, and nearly choked on his drink. No way. They actually showed up? With a voided ticket? She probably thought I was bluffing, I said. She thought that once she was here, I'd cave, or that the system wouldn't update fast enough. We watched for another minute. Julian was pacing, yelling into his phone. Elena was standing perfectly still, looking up at the Paddock Club balcony. For one split second, our eyes met. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk. I just raised my glass. A silent $3,000 cheers from the life she thought she could steal. She turned white. Even from 50 feet up, I could see the moment the reality hit her. She wasn't the queen today. She was just a girl in a cheap motel, standing in the dirt, watching the man she betrayed live the life she wanted. They disappeared into the crowd a few minutes later. Saturday. Race day. The atmosphere was pure chaos. The strip was closed, the lights were blinding, and the celebrities were out in force. Marcus and I were having lunch in the hospitality suite, rubbing elbows with tech CEOs and former drivers, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Julian. He'd found a way around the block, probably using a new burner app. "Alex, man, listen. We're at the track. Elena is a mess. She's been crying for 12 hours. We're staying at a Motel 6 40 minutes away because everything else is booked. Just give us the code for the hotel or send the ticket back. Don't be a dish. You've made your point." I typed back 5 words. "Enjoy the noise, Julian." Click. I blocked that number too. The race itself was a blur of speed and light. We watched the cars fly past at 200 miles per hour, the ground literally shaking beneath our feet. When the checkered flag dropped and the fireworks exploded over the sphere, I realized something. I hadn't thought about Elena for the entire race, not once. The addiction was broken. The need to fix her, the need to provide for her, it had been burned away by the literal heat of the track. Sunday morning, the great exodus. Marcus and I were waiting for our car to the airport when I saw a familiar post on the Vegas locals group. "Scam alert. If anyone sees a guy named Alex V trying to book luxury suites, watch out. He's a financial abuser who leaves women stranded in foreign cities without a cent. Share to save a sister." The post had 0 likes. In fact, the only comment was from the same guy who'd replied to her before. "Babe, we saw your ex's post with the receipts. You gave his ticket to your friend, Julian, and then got mad when the guy stopped paying your bills. Get a job. Vegas doesn't owe you anything." I deleted the Facebook app. I didn't need it anymore. When I got back to the city, my apartment felt different. It was quiet, but it wasn't lonely quiet. It was peaceful. I spent the next week scrubbing every trace of her from the place. The live, laugh, love sign she'd hung in the kitchen. Trash. The overpriced candles that smelled like aspiration. Donated. A month later, I was at a local bar with Sarah and Marcus. "So," Sarah said, leaning back, "I heard a rumor. Chloe says Elena is taking a break from design to focus on her mental health." Translation. She's living on her mom's couch, and Julian dumped her because he couldn't afford to take her to Applebee's, let alone Vegas. "Good for them," I said, and I meant it. I didn't want them to suffer. I just didn't want them to be my problem anymore. Just then, a girl walked up to the bar. She was wearing a vintage racing jacket, A real one, with grease stains on the cuffs. "Hey," she said, looking at the TV. They were showing highlights from the last race. "Did you see that pass on lap 42? Absolute madness." I looked at her. She wasn't curated. She wasn't designer. She just looked real. "I saw it," I said, sliding a stool over. "But honestly, the sound of the downshift into turn 3 was even better." She grinned. "A man who appreciates the noise. I like that." I smiled back. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking for someone to fix. I was just looking for someone who could hear the music. Some people say that revenge is a dish best served cold. But in my experience, it's best served at 200 miles per hour, with the volume turned all the way up.